Something just happened and Wall Street does not want normal people to understand what it means. Because while everybody was busy arguing online, refreshing price charts, and pretending the system is fine, the largest asset manager in human history quietly made a move. Not a tweet, not a headline, not a CNBC panic banner with a bald guy sweating through his blazer. A move. BlackRock. Yeah, that small empire with a logo. $13 trillion under management. And when an empire like that changes positions, you should pay attention. Because the money always moves before the explanation. And here's the part that matters to you. This isn't just about stocks. This isn't just about portfolio strategy. This is not just rich people doing rich people things in conference rooms with cucumber water and Xanax. This may be a warning about regional banks, commercial real estate, deposit safety, and a financial system that is way more fragile than the average person realizes. And if that sounds dramatic, good, it should. Because buried inside BlackRock's latest positioning is a message that says the stress is not over, the danger is not priced in, and the people with the best data are already moving. So today we're breaking down what BlackRock just did, why regional banks may be the weak link again, why commercial real estate is shaping up to be a monster problem. We've been talking about this for a long time, and why every one of these cracks keeps pointing back to the same conclusion. The more unstable the fiat system gets, the more obvious Bitcoin becomes. Crazy Uncle Larry knows something, and we're going to find out exactly what that is. Son!
I could see a year from now oil at $40 a barrel, or I could see it above $150 a barrel. Well, we have two very extreme outcomes. And in my conversations throughout the world with the US government, all that, to me, everybody has to recognize there's not going to be an outcome that's somewhere in the middle. It's going to either be two extremes. Is Iran a country that can be accepted by the international community? Can Iran be a country that participates in the world again? And if that outcome occurred, then you could have the Iranian oil back into the marketplace, alongside the growth of the Venezuelan oil, and you could paint a picture where oil prices could be lower than they were prior to the Iranian war. If there's a cessation of war, and yet Iran remains a threat to trade, a threat to the Straits of Hormuz, then I would argue that we could have years of above $100, closer to $150 oil.
What happens to the global economy if that happens? How do we see it?
We'll have global recession.
Let's start here. BlackRock is not your local bank. They are not handing out car loans to a guy named Todd who wants to refinance a bass boat. They manage institutional capital, pension funds, sovereign money, insurance reserves, retirement portfolios, massive ETF flows, the kind of money that moves markets just by breathing in a certain direction. So when BlackRock shifts from overweight to neutral on US equities, that matters. When they dial back on small caps, that matters. When they lean away from long duration bonds, that matters. And when their commentary starts smelling like stagflation, recession risk, and sector vulnerability, that really matters. Because BlackRock is not in the business of making you feel calm. They are in the business of preserving capital. That's it. That's the game. And when the biggest money manager on earth starts repositioning, you do not ask, what are they saying? You ask, what are they running from? And one of the biggest answers right now looks a lot like this. Something we've been talking about for a while. Regional banks, not the giant too big to fail behemoths with armies of lawyers and a direct hotline to the people who ruin your life professionally. Oh no, regional banks. The banks that sit right in the blast radius of commercial real estate stress, local economic slowdown, and deposit nervousness. And that is where this whole thing starts getting ugly. Here's the number you need to understand. $875 billion. That is the amount of commercial real estate debt maturing in 2026. Office buildings, retail centers, hotels, commercial properties. All the stuff that looked amazing when money was cheap and everyone thought rates would stay low forever. And spoiler alert, they did not. Now, all that debt has to roll over into a world where financing is more expensive. Buildings are worth less, occupancy is weaker, and the assumptions behind those loans look like they were made by a golden retriever wearing a tie. And regional banks? They're loaded with this stuff. That's the key. Big diversified banks have commercial real estate exposure, sure. But regional banks are way more concentrated. In plain English, if this market gets ugly, they don't have as many ways to absorb the hit. They're local, they're concentrated, they're exposed. That's why this matters. Because regional banks spent years doing what every institution does when rates are low and prudence dies. They reached for yield. Safe assets weren't paying enough. Treasury yields were pathetic. The world was drunk on cheap money. So banks piled into commercial real estate because it looked solid. Buildings, collateral, cash flow. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, I don't know. Maybe the internet happened. Maybe e-commerce happened. Maybe remote work happened. Maybe half the office towers in America now feel like haunted WeWorks. But the loans were made anyway. And now the bill is showing up. Now here's where it gets worse. If this were just a normal slowdown, maybe rates come down, refinancing gets easier, and the system limps along. We've seen this before, but this is not a normal slowdown. This is the trap. Oil shocks, inflation pressure, geopolitical stress, recession fear, higher for longer rate risk. So now the Federal Reserve has a problem, because if inflation stays sticky, they can't just slash rates and ride in like heroes. And every month rates stay elevated, this refinancing wall becomes nastier. That means more borrowers can't refinance on good terms. More properties underwater. More loans get stressed. More provisions hit bank earnings. More investors get nervous. More depositors ask questions. And in a digital banking world, asking questions can turn into moving money really fast. That's the thing people still don't fully appreciate after 2023. Bank runs used to look like black and white footage of men in hats standing in lines outside of a branch. Now it's just a rich guy in his kitchen tapping a screen while making a protein shake. That's all it is. 30 seconds, swipe, transfer, gone. That is the speed of a modern banking panic. And if you think perception doesn't matter, you learned absolutely nothing from Silicon Valley Bank. Banks don't die when the public finally gets a press release. Banks die when confidence leaves. Let me simplify the whole disaster for you. Regional banks spent the 2010s and early 2020s making a giant bet. And that bet was rates stay manageable, commercial property values hold up, office demand comes back, refinancing stays available, and deposits remain sticky. That was the bet, and for a while, it looked brilliant. Then reality showed up like a repo man. Office vacancies stayed elevated. Remote work didn't magically disappear. Retail got smoked by structural change. Rates surged. Bond portfolios got hit. Property values softened. The economy got shakier. And suddenly, these banks weren't just local lenders anymore. They were giant leveraged wagers on a world that no longer exists. That's the whole story. And just to make it extra spicy, many of these same institutions were also sitting on unrealized losses elsewhere from the last rate shock. So this isn't one clean problem. It is stacked fragility. It's we survived one thing and now the second thing is arriving before the first thing was fully repaired or even close to it. And this is where people make the same mistake every time. They think because the crisis is not on television yet, it isn't real. Wrong. The smart money leaves in layers. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks and a marching band. It rebalances. It rotates. It gets more defensive. It becomes selective. It manages exposure. That's how polite people say, we'd like to not die with you. Going down with the ship. We've seen this movie before. Savings and loan crisis. Same basic dynamic. Concentrated exposure, deteriorating fundamentals, slow recognition, the boom, 2023 regional bank stress, confidence evaporated, Asset mismatches mattered, deposit flight got real, and suddenly everyone on TV became an expert after the fire started. That's the point. Institutional capital does not wait around for confirmation that the house is burning. It leaves when it smells smoke. So again, when BlackRock shifts posture, it's not a guarantee of collapse, but it is a massive blinking neon sign that says, maybe stop assuming everything is fine just because the people on television are still smiling. Let's put the whole pressure stack together. Because, again, this is not one problem, it is 6 problems showing up at the same party. Number 1, commercial real estate maturities. That wall is huge, and refinancing is harder, like a diamond in an ice storm. Number 2, concentration risk. Regional banks are more exposed than the giants. Less diversification, more pain sensitivity. Number 3, private credit stress. That entire shadow lending machine is showing signs of strain, and once collateral starts getting marked down, nobody acts calm for very long. Number 4, inflation and energy shock. If oil stays elevated, the Fed gets boxed in, and if the Fed gets boxed in, CRE borrowers don't get relief. Number 5, recession risk. Regional banks live and die with local economies. Local business stress hits them first. Number 6, institutional rotation. This is the one people always ignore until it's too late. When the giant pools of capital decide they don't like the sector, valuations weaken, sentiment weakens, confidence weakens, and then the feedback loop begins. That's how a slow burn becomes a fast panic, not because one thing broke overnight, because 5 or 6 things were already weakening the floor, and then somebody heavy walked across it. Some giant chungus. And that's why BlackRock matters here. They are not the whole story, they are the confirmation that the story is serious. And it looks like Ledn sees the writing on the wall as well.
I think when we were on stage yesterday, we were talking about the things that do frighten you, and you said when it gets to the issues, it's like straight up hormuz is number 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
So obviously the energy crisis being a part of that, but what are the things that you're looking at there that concern you?
Well, one is, I mean, 15 to 20% of global energy production is just offline, or at least can't get to where it has to go, and then starts going offline. Some of it's damaged. It's not clear when it's going to reopen. It could, peace talks could break out a week from now, and then after some further weeks, we start getting things coming back online. So either way, it's going to take bare minimum weeks to get flows, but I mean that could take months or longer. And there's no kind of viable alternatives to get that energy out. And really, energy shortages or food shortages are about the worst case scenario for any economy. And they often even go together because it's not just oil and gas going through the strait. It's also fertilizer inputs. I mean, natural gas is a major fertilizer input.
Mhm.
There's also other urea, sulfur, helium. There are things that either for fertilizers or for electronics manufacturing or for even just medical equipment. There's tons of components that
So
are
when you
just,
talk about oil, food production, medical equipment, electronics, it's like it's everything.
it's everything. Yeah. And it's the foundation. It's like, the economy is based on an upside down pyramid, and that little tip is basically raw materials. And that's the part that's disrupted. Because if you have let's go back to private credit. Let's say you have a $500 billion hole just shows up in private credit. I mean, that's 3 months of like US deficit spending. Like that's like literally you can snap your fingers and make that problem go away, or just it's like it's we live in a fiat world. But when you have molecules that just can't get to where they have to go.
So what do you actually do with this? Not panic. Do not run around like a lunatic yelling at a bank teller who makes $16 an hour and just wants to survive until lunch. Be precise. First, know what bank you use. Know whether it's a giant diversified institution or a smaller lender with concentrated exposure. Second, understand deposit insurance limits. If you've got large balances sitting in one place above insured thresholds, at minimum know the risk. Ignorance is not a strategy. Third, stop confusing a stock price with a deposit account. A bank stock can get obliterated before insured depositors necessarily take a hit. Different risks. Learn the difference. Fourth, watch for signs of stress instead of waiting for a dramatic headline. Weak stock performance, rising concern around exposure, ugly earnings language, capital raises. defense positioning, those matter. And fifth, most importantly, start thinking outside the banking system entirely. Because this is the real reason people keep refusing to learn. If your entire life savings strategy depends on a chain of counterparties, political decisions, central bank responses, bailouts, accounting games, and confidence staying intact, that is not peace of mind. That is dependency. And dependency is fine until it isn't. But thanks to our friends over at the Bitcoin Way, you don't have to depend or trust these people or these old busted crusty institutions with your generational wealth anymore. The Bitcoin Way sets you up with ironclad self-custody, proper hardware, your own node, full on-chain verification. So your Bitcoin is actually yours, not your bank's, not on exchanges, yours. Their team handholds you through the entire setup, step by step, until you've mastered it. No shortcuts, no miss, no single point of failure standing between you and your generational wealth. Book your free 30-minute consultation right now using that QR code or the link in the show notes and begin your journey towards sovereignty today, the Bitcoin Way. And this is why Bitcoin matters. Not because every bank fails tomorrow morning. Not because the world ends by Friday. Not because somebody with laser eyes made a prediction while wearing wraparound sunglasses in a rented Lambo. Bitcoin matters because it removes a layer of trust. That's it. In a world of commercial real estate rollovers, hidden losses, fragile confidence, policy traps, institutional front-running, and endless financial theater, Bitcoin is the asset that does not need a regional bank to survive. It does not care about office occupancy in Chicago. It does not care whether some over-leveraged strip mall loan gets extended for another 12 months so executives can buy time. It does not care about central planners trying to thread the needle between inflation and recession with the precision of a drunk guy playing darts with a thermal detonator. It just keeps producing blocks. And that is why moments like this, weirdly, are not just dangerous, they are clarifying. Because every new stress event in the fiat system teaches the same lesson. Your money is only as safe as the structure holding it. And those structures are a lot shakier than they look. So when BlackRock shifts, pay attention. When regional bank risk rises, pay attention. When commercial real estate stress builds, pay attention, because the people closest to the system are telling you in their own quiet, polished institutional language that the system is not as stable as advertised. And if the biggest asset manager on earth is repositioning for that reality, maybe you should too. Not with panic, with clarity. That means understanding your bank, understanding your exposure, understanding self-custody, understanding why separating money from state and from fragile banking intermediaries is not some fringe idea anymore. It's common sense. You are your own bank now. You're holding pristine collateral. And if you ever need liquidity, hell, just to buy groceries in 2026, you can make loans to yourself and pay them off on your own time. Here's something most Bitcoin holders never figure out until it's too late. You're sitting on wealth you can't touch without selling. And selling means taxes. Selling means exiting your position. Selling means you lose. Ledn fixes that. Bitcoin-backed loans. You keep your stack, you get cash, and you repay whenever you want. Zero penalties, zero monthly payments, and right now, Ledn just dropped their lowest rates ever. No fine print, no complexity. The larger your loan, the lower your rate. And you see every number up front before you even apply. Here's why I trust them personally. Your Bitcoin is custodied at all times and never lent out for interest. You get auto top-up protection, LTV alerts, and partial repayment options, so you stay in control through any market condition. That's not marketing, that's $10 billion in loans across 8 years with a perfect track record. Every market cycle, not one client's funds lost. Don't choose between a great rate and the safety of your Bitcoin. Ledn gives you both. Scan the QR or use the link below and head to ledn.io today.
The war's ripple effects on Americans are only growing. The national average for a gallon of gas rising to $4.12. An 80-cent jump in just a month, and those soaring fuel prices are now taking a toll all across the U.S. economy. NBC's Sam Brock is here in the studio with that part of the story. Sam, good morning.
Craig, Savannah, good morning. The International Energy Agency has already declared this the worst oil disruption in history. And guys, while we may think about paying more at the pump, this crisis has such a wider reach, from higher airline baggage fees to selling items on Amazon to the price of produce at the grocery store. The trickle-down effect of oil is turning into a deluge.
The signal has been given. The capital is moving, and the people who wait for certainty are usually the people reading about the danger after the smart money already left. It also appears smart money are building bunkers and preparing for Armageddon. You might want to as well. And our friends over at Sat123 have got you covered. Bitcoin protects your wealth, but it won't keep you connected when the grid goes down. Sat123 fixes that. Satellite phones, Starlink kits, Faraday bags, and backpacks. Built for people who take sovereignty seriously. Head over to sat123.com and use code SIMPLY for 15% off. Now, do it! Hold on. Are you kidding me right now? You came this far and you still... Look at our likes!
3 or 4 times, maybe. I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
Smash the like so I don't have to live under an overpass. Subscribe. Give us a pep. Send this to someone who still thinks a bank balance is the same thing as financial sovereignty. They'll thank you later, because in the next episode, well, let's just say, you're not ready. Hey, I love you guys. Catch you next time.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, you.